changes in the squad, I think we're going to be in for a very competitive game.
Luke Pearce, the referee, a man born in Wales, but all his rugby life spent in the southwest of England. It is a stunning afternoon, and how well this was set up last week. Argentina playing from left to right, and it is a Pumas side with 12 of the same starting 15, which beat the All Blacks in Sydney in November. A very famous win that for the Argentinians, the first time they'd ever beaten the All Blacks. Oh, and that's the first spill, and it comes from Facundo Issa. So many of these Argentinian players these days playing their club rugby in France. It's much the same as it was a decade ago. Little touch there for Nick Tompkins. The fullback Hallam Amos was in the line. Owen Lane getting another start here on the wing. He impressed. The carry from Will Rowlands. There's Williams. The two half-backs for Wales today. Teammates at Cardiff, who, if you don't know the geography of this place, they play just over the back here of the Principality Stadium. It is a cracking setting. Rugby right at the heart of Welsh culture, and literally at the heart of the Welsh capital.
Great start there initially from Wales, really showing their ambition to try and get it to the width. Much more clinical in the passing, but Argentina have done exactly what they did last round, showing their physicality, getting that turnover there by holding one of the Welsh players up.
The camera dwelling there on Ben Carter, who made his Test debut on this ground a couple of weeks ago against Canada. It was a handsome victory for the men in red, that. This, though, a rather more competitive affair. So the first scrum on this side, Gareth Thomas. His first start for Wales up against Francisco Gomez Cadella, who's been round the block a few times. Sanchez with that sweeping kick. Comfortable catch there for Tom Rogers. Back in the side. That kick didn't quite come out of the middle. And it's grabbed by De La Fuente onto Cubelli. Little step from him there. It is pretty much the hottest day so far this year in the United Kingdom. Cubelli just looking to exploit the short side there. He had De La Fuente on his shoulder. Cubelli, the scrum half. Bruni, powerful carry. Making meters, which in all honesty he shouldn't have made. Cubelli with the offload. It's a good start from the Pumas. Matera was on the run there, but there is the penalty. So it's been a good start. And I was going to say the visitors, well, literally the visitors, but just to stress the point, these test matches were originally supposed to happen down in Argentina, so they are, or will go down in the record book as the home side.
Yeah, just showing that physicality again, aren't they? This is really what gave them the upper hand last week. They're so strong. They're such strong ball carriers there. And Bruno running down the ring, keeping the ball alive. And I think it's the right idea now for Argentina to take these early points. They really got into the Wales 22 with little effort there. So why not take the point straight away, rebuild and go again?
Argentina have produced outstanding kicking fly halves for as long as we can remember, but, well, a rare one to get away there from Nicolas Sanchez.
You know what, I'm really surprised at that because he actually missed 3 kicks last week and that would have given them the win. So you would have thought every single day this week he would have been out practicing and practicing, and to not get the first one over, that's going to knock his confidence.
Yes, there's a fair old dynasty in that respect, going all the way back to the great Hugo Porter. Several decades ago now. That was a good chase, well timed as well by Moroni. But let's see if Wales can get the exit right here. Thomas Williams, who picked up a vital score for Wales last week. Will Rowlands just creating a little bit of space for him. Sanchez looking straight up into the sun. And finding himself going headlong into some red jerseys. There's Cabelli on the halfway line. So we've got an Argentinian down, and it looks like a head injury. Well, it's Sanchez. That will be a source of great concern to Mario Ledesma.
That will be, because they haven't really got sort of another fly half in the waiting. They've got cover, but they are still waiting for a young fly half to come through for Argentina. That's why we see Sanchez racking up the caps. Very experienced player, but that's one area of the squad they are really looking to try and develop their depth.
Domingo Miotti, who will come on and make his 4th appearance for Argentina. So Mario Ledesma having to make a call he didn't want to make. Sanchez is still down. So Miotti looking on with some concern, but having to go through some fairly swift stretches, but Sanchez being helped onto his feet.
Gosh, it really didn't look that sinister, did it? I think he's just got caught with a bit of whiplash potentially in that contact to Owen Lane's chest.
Well, Sanchez has got up. And that seemed for quite a while the least likely consequence of that clash. Let's take another look at this. Well, it's Owen Lane coming through who made the contact.
I think he was lucky there was no real direct contact from Owen Lane's arms, elbows, forearms to the head. It was more that Sanchez ducked into his chest.
Good throw from Elliot D, who hasn't done much wrong in that respect over the course of the last couple of weeks. Out of the sunshine, into the shadow. Wales in possession in the Argentinian 22. That was with Rowlands. Here's Williams again. He passes the ball on. The Cardiff scrum half on there to Elliot D. Moriarty has been so powerful with his carrying. We've seen that a couple of times, but the Pumas have turned it. It's Tetas Chaparro. Back there from Cabelli. Well, look at the enterprise here, and this is Carreras coming out of his 22. Back from Cabelli. Sanchez with a big hoof downfield. Lane with a catch, and here's Hannum Amos with a bit of green grass in front of him. Nice quick pass there from Leon Brown, the tight head. Tompkins, this is good. Davis, they've got a chance here. They've missed a tackle. Lane with a powerful run, and he's got there. If that is confirmed, it will be just his 2nd test try.
What a powerful run there from Owen Lane. My days, he was tiptoeing down the sideline, wasn't he? But you know what? It's little things like the tip-on pass that we saw from Leon Brown to fellow prop Gareth Thomas just creates that momentum. It just gets the Argentinian team on the back foot. And that meant they were just chasing the game. It was an easy overlap then to be created, but Owen Lane still had plenty to do. 1 defender, 2 defender, managed just to stay in field. Lovely time pass there from Jonathan Davis. We're really starting to see the resurgence from him in this summer test. He's had a bit of sketchy form at regional level, but he's really starting to get back to the Jonathan Davis of old.
Well, the first tackle missed by Santiago Carreras. That has proved costly. And after that, there was not much that Matias Moroni could do about it. So Wales strike first. We had to wait for almost 40 minutes before the first try last weekend. We've got one here after 8. That's a decent effort there from Jared Evans, just coming back off the upright. It doesn't count, but looks like he's got his kicking boots on. But this is what Owen Lane does so well. He's powerful, not necessarily the quickest Welsh wing, but he does do what he does rather well, and that was a case in point.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, when we've got so many great wingers here in Wales, but it's always nice to have a contrast, have a power on one side and a speed on the other. So Owen will still have his, be a good option there.
Well, a little knock-on spotted there by Luke Pearce. That was Gareth Thomas, the Osprey, getting his first start today, a man from West Wales. Much of the family up to see him today. It's a good hour and a half from where he comes from originally. Cabelli being urged to use it. Missing out De La Fuente. That was a good carry from Delgi. There's Matera, Cabelli, they're looking for quick ball here. Another powerful carry from Issa. Look at the numbers here, the Argentinians, they're looking to strike. It's with Montoya, the captain. Cabelli. Crema that time. Out there from Cabelli. And they've got over the line, and Argentina have bitten back immediately, and appropriately on the occasion of his 50th Test match, Matias Moroni doing exactly what he did for Argentina here in that famous World Cup quarter-final going back 6 years. He scored the first try when they beat Ireland. This is first ever try against Wales.
And it's not often really you see a winger sort of tucking it up his jumper and running that short angle, but it was so powerful, so low and direct. You'd be forgiven to think that that was, you know, your number 8 or your flanker. It was a really powerful drive, but it was the angle that he decided to run it against, just splintered in between the players. Body height there. Wales needed to do better. They needed to be lower. 3 players defending there, and he still got through.
This is a slightly more acute angle for Sanchez. And that's rather better. I don't think anyone in World Rugby makes kicking a ball off the tee look quite so relaxed and natural a process as Nicolas Sanchez. He's rather special. Big moment for Matias Moroni. A centre by trade, but he's played a lot on the wing for Argentina. Cabelli with the clearance kick.
Well, you know, I talked about lessons being learnt from last round, and it's looking like Argentina have learnt theirs as well, being far more clinical and really trying to create. I think they were hindered a little bit playing the majority of the game with 14, but last week their tries were far more opportunistic, whereas now you can see they're building.
Well, the weather bringing the best out of both sides, and now there's a chance to run for Rodgers, or at least there was. Well, once again, Wales creating space and an additional man on the flanks.
Oh, Tom Rogers, you've really got a feel for him. He's the young, exciting winger, and he just seems a little nervy. We saw that box kick first on, really didn't go where he wanted it to, and that ball was on a plate for him, and he had space in front of him. It was a lovely bit of movement there, bit of misdirection, some dummy runners, and it was a perfectly timed pass there from Hallamemos. Oh, that's such a shame. That was a real opportunity for Wales there. Oh, he's going to hate to see that back. All part of the learning process.
Well, he knew he needed every split second he could get with that ball in hand, but he really was off and running for the corner before he'd made sure he got the ball firmly into his paws. Set pieces working well for both sides. That was good from Thomas Williams. Charging down the kick from Sanchez. Well, the tackle was a little bit high on Carreras.
Yeah, it was a bit of a difficult one because, you know, the Argentinian player was diving down. I think he lost his footing, but Nick Tompkins does need to be careful when you lead with sort of a hooked arm like that. If it makes any contact to the upper body, it's going to look really bad.
Jonathan Davis and Nick Tompkins.
Yeah, you see there the player just sort of ducks. So it really did look a little worse than it was. But Nick Tompkins had a bit of an interesting ride with Wales, burst onto the scene 2019 and had a bit of a sketchy time since. Didn't really settle with Dragons at the region. He's now gone back to Sarries. I still think he's a promising player, so it's good to see him get a start today. Just hope he gets into the game.
Yes, he had a few challenges off the pitch as well as on it. I know he had an issue including a family bereavement to deal with, and one of the problems being on loan with the Dragons was that he wasn't really at the Dragons terribly often, being taken away with the Wales squad, but he's certainly much happier now back in North London with Saracens. Well, the ball just coming off the hand there of Thomas Williams. The referee's happy that that was just a knock-on. Well, in fact, he's now upgraded it to a penalty.
Penalty count starting to creep up a little bit here. It's going to be so important in this game. If it continues in the same way, then penalties could be the deciding factor. Both teams are going to have to look clean. They're looking now to see if it was a knock-on. Oh, it was almost reactional there by Thomas Williams. But it is an infringement. He did mean to go for it. It wasn't an accidental.
Luke Pearce. Very interesting fella. First became a referee at the age of 16, took charge of his first Gallagher Premiership match. That's the English Premiership at the age of 23. And here he is a decade later. So to talk about him being inexperienced would be entirely accurate. He's young. But for much of his refereeing life, he's taken charge of matches where he's one of the youngest men on the pitch. Went to the World Cup last year. Or back in 2019, I should say. There's Montoya. His first stint as captain, having taken the role from Pablo Matera. That was Guido Petti, who's not wearing that face mask that he was a week ago. There's Montoya just looking up. Now he's getting a bit of guidance. And this is a part of the game that Wayne Pivac respects so much. The Pumas are so good at this. And look at them. What a demonstration this is. Montoya still has it. Just feeding it back there for Cabelli. De La Fuente, quick hands, but there was nobody on the end of it. Well, that was an interesting tactic.
Well, I can safely say I don't think I've ever seen that before, but fair play, he was getting the ball to the space.
Well, we'll give Nicolas Sanchez there the benefit of the doubt. He knew the penalty was coming. Jim Botham looking, dare I say, a little bemused. He was the penalised player. Nicolas Sanchez just slipping over on his previously clean white shorts.
That was such a good rolling maul there by Argentina. They really are still showing that they have the upper hand here in the physicality.
Montoya finds Petty. The inside ball from Cabelli. They play with such pace when they get to this part of the pitch. There's Montoya. Look at Cabelli. Feeds the ball out to Matera. He's got De La Fuente for company. Cabelli, the dummy. The scrum half goes. And then the offload. Well, let's see what the referee decides. Well, it looks like Cabelli's knocked it on. And in fairness to Thomas Cabelli, when it was suggested to him by Luke Pearce that it was a knock-on, he just nodded. There you go.
Oh, he almost sort of releases the left arm to try and protect the ball, and in that, doing that, it then just allowed the ball to be knocked out.
79th cap today for Thomas Cabelli. Spent a lot of time on the bench for Argentina when he was the understudy to Martin Landajo, but has been now the preeminent scrum half for the Pumas. Absolutely crucial here that Wales go through their exit strategy without a blemish.
Scrum was a great contest last week, but interesting with Wales, change of props. The new young Gareth Thomas in there, and then Leon Brown from the Dragons. More known for his play in the loose, but he is working really hard on his scrummaging technique. And if he can bring those two together, if he can be as threatening in the scrum as he is loose around the park, he's going to be a fantastic player.
So the penalty going against Francisco Gomez Cadella. There he is, the Argentinian tight head. Feather in the cap for Gareth Thomas.
Yeah, that's a big confidence booster, isn't it? Right on your try line to be able to force a penalty like that.
Well, Elliot D was 15 out of 15 with his line-out throws last week. He's been spot on so far this time. That was 3 from 3. Williams with the high ball. Well taken by Carreras. Carreras, who plays his club rugby, not that far away from here at Gloucester. Luke Pearce getting in the way. Well, he had a whistle in one hand, so perhaps there's an excuse for the referee not catching it.
Yeah, it's been so good for Elliot D at hooker there to get a run of games. You know, normally he is the understudy to Ken Owens, but I think just having these summer test opportunities, started each one, has been really good for his confidence. And there is Luke Price just trying desperately to stay out of the way and being smack bang in the middle.
So we're through the opening quarter. 1 try apiece. Argentina leading by 2 by virtue of the, well, less than the width of an upright. Powerful scrum there for Argentina. They're looking for the penalty. They've got it. Well, I think Gomez Cadella has bounced back with a bit of help from Noel Tetas Chaparro on the loose head side.
Do you feel like Argentina are just managing to pile on the pressure? They just keep building, keep pushing Wales back. Certainly starting to use a bit more of that possession. They just need to convert it into some more points.
Wayne Pivac made the point during the week that he wants to see, or expects to see, Wales holding their own in the set piece, avoiding penalties, because Argentina just love these positions when they can set up the line out on or inside their 22. Their line out drive and maul is so powerful. That's Gomez Cadella. Here's Cabelli just hooking it over the top to Guido Petti. Now one or two spaces starting to open. Look at the slickness of the handling once again. That was Sanchez presenting it. The carry there from Crema. Both of the big locks here for Argentina, very mobile. They spend much of their time playing their club rugby in the back row. That's Gomez Cadella. Will Rowland's doing what he can to disrupt. There's Matera with a bit of help from Crema. Kubeli once again. This is superb ball retention from the Pumas. They got the penalty advantage. They can go for it now. That was Batista Delgui, but we'll come back for the penalty.
Wales just getting caught offside there. I think that's a bit of a sign of frustration because, as you mentioned, Argentina were able to keep hold of the ball. They weren't getting that much gain line, but it was still tiring Wales down, so you would expect a gap to appear at some point. I think Argentina are going to be going for the points now, which is the right idea. Like I said, they are having this more improved possession, but they need to make sure if they're not getting through that line for a try, if you get a penalty opportunity, take the points.
It is worth reinforcing the point that Wales are without 12 players who have been committed one way or the other by the Lions. They've got 11 out there now with Alan Wynne-Jones having returned. Justin Tipperick suffering injury in that opening matchup at Murrayfield. There are one or two other injuries of players who were not called on by the Lions, and this is very close to a full-strength Pumas. I can only really think of Matthias Orlando, I should say, the Newcastle centre, who was originally selected for the squad, but he was hurt in the closing week or two of the English Premiership season. Sanchez, the ball just clipping the fingers there of Thomas Williams. Moriarty, utterly uncompromising. Can also be said of Facundo Issa, who felt the collision. Amos, another opportunity for Rodgers. That time he catches it, but the offload went forward. Sanchez, the opportunity to counter-attack. Referee says the advantage is over. That was Matera. Passed it on to Chocobares. The little chip forward. Oh, that's rather good. Oh, he's been caught, but the referee has blown the whistle. Well, they were rather fortunate there, Wales.
Yeah, that was a bit of a tight call. What a great bit of ambition there from Moroni on the wing. He could see the player that was coming in to make the tackle, puts the ball to boot infield, which not only gives him a foot race, but it also allows any other players in the central position to have a foot race. Oh, I think that's a bit unfortunate.
Well, Well, it's Maroney on Jared Evans. Well, it came off his head.
Yes. Yeah, that's a shame. You know, retrospect, if he could have seen that, then they could have kept playing. But because he had blown the whistle, they do have to stop and reset. But they've got that scrum. But here we see the initial breakaway. You know, he's got so much work to do there. The first kick through gets in behind. The second kick. Now, I may be, you know, singing his praises. Whether he was intending for that to go central, I'm not sure. He just wanted to get his foot to the ball. But by it going central meant that it gave other opportunity to other players to get on that ball. So really looking to keep the ball alive. It's a good bit of play. Just a shame they couldn't keep playing.
Behind the mask there, Michael Checker. Now part of the coaching staff with Argentina. He and the Pumas boss, Mario Ledesma, go back a decade since they first worked together at Stade Francais. Though I rather suspect they knew one another quite well before that, having both played in France. Kubeli with the put-in, just getting a bit of a shove there from Williams. That's Bruni looking to pick up. Rodrigo Bruni gets through the first tackle. Jonathan Davis steps in, but it's a powerful carry from Argentina. Kubeli on there to Crema. Crema 2 meters out. Will Rowlands slowing the ball down successfully, but Kubeli burrowing his way through. And Luke Pearce has awarded the try.
Well, the number 9, Kubeli, he has been everywhere, isn't he? I mean, he's really on fire today. He is the main catalyst to this creative attack, this snappy phase play that they're going through. It's so quick. They're getting such good dominance in the collision area that's allowing him to play the ball. But then he just timed it right. You pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball, but when it's on to go, you just tuck it and sneak in yourself. You just got across the line. You know, I did feel like last round, I think because Argentina were down to 14, they put so much energy into their defense. You really didn't see too much creativity from them in attack, but they have certainly learnt their lessons from last week, keeping all the players on, and they're really building some nice phase play.
And Sanchez extends the advantage to 12 points, and it was at this point of the match last week when Argentina went down to 13 for a brief period. It was at a time also when Wales had 14 on the pitch. But that gives some sort of perspective to the challenge that now faces Wayne Pivac's team. Good chase from Owen Lane.
Really good chase up there, just getting an arm to it. Putting the pressure back on Argentina to try and exit. You forget how big he is. He's a tall guy. But like I say, you know, when you said before, he's not the quickest, but he's powerful, he's tall, he can do things like that.
There's Bruni, who's been a thorn in the flesh for Wales so far. His powerful carry really gave them momentum. Well, it's a penalty going against Argentina. Facundo Issa, the Toulon Open side, coming in from the side. Facundo Issa, who a few years ago was one of the junior players, one of the outstanding under-20s in world rugby. Played his club rugby now in France for quite a while at Toulon.
You know, there's an interesting bit of psychology at play here, because you would think with the scoreline being at such a deficit, the Wales should be kicking for the corner, go for the line out, go for the 7. But actually, as this is a penalty in the ruck area, by then taking your points and hurting the team straight away, it may just make some of the Argentinians a little bit more cautious at the ruck area.
Bit of a nervy one, that perhaps, for Jared Evans. The deficit reduced to single figures. It has been a long season for Wales. It's been running for nearly all these Wales players for 11 months. This very much the last day of term. Turnbull with the catch despite the pressure. Here's Botham. 8 minutes to go to half-time. Carreras waits for it. Here's Issa. There have been one or two interesting physical clashes between Ross Moriarty and Facundo Issa. That was another of them. Not the most sympathetic pass there from Sanchez to Carreras. Did well to keep hold of it. As Issa again, another carry from the open side. Kubeli. This one on Thomas Williams. Off and running here, Thomas Williams. That's the youngster, Ben Carter, just 20, earning his third cap today for Wales. Carreras. Sanchez. Matera shoveling it on. Bit of space for Delgui. Inside to Matera, who's dispossessed. That was good work from Jared Evans. Forcing that knock on from the Argentinians.
Yeah, Wales needed that. You just felt there. Argentina really starting to build something. I'm loving their hands. Really nice little tip-on passes. They're really backing themselves. I mean, they're operating there in only 2 or 3 meters. You've got to have really slick skills to be able to expose space with so little of it.
Look at that, it's almost twice as many tackles have had to be made by Wales, and on a day like today, temperatures pushing into the high 20s.
Yep, that is energy sapping stuff.
Teta Shaparo over on the Luced side, there he is. Has been released at the end of the season by Bristol, just over the Severn Bridge. He's off to Northern Italy to play next season for Benetton. Decent kick, that one from Jared Evans.
Great bit of territory there. It's a good one from them to build. I think the scrums at the moment are pretty 50-50, which is really good for Wayne Pivac to see. Like we say, 2 young props in competing against what is a very, very experienced Argentinian pack.
Oh, Elliot D. That was a rare beast. Well, that's his first missed line out for more than 2 weeks. Back goes Hallam Amos. Oh dear. Well, that'll look horrible for the fullback when he has to take a look at that again at the end of the day. Rare errors both from Elliot D and now Hallam Amos.
Yeah, just looking a bit flustered, aren't they? As you alluded to, the line-out has been fantastic for Wales. Combination of Elliot D and Ben Carter, but that is very uncharacteristical of Hallam Amos. You know, he is a real steady, confident player in the backfield there. So I think he just got caught a little bit off guard, wasn't expecting that kick to come through.
Well, Wales came back from 14 points down to clinch the draw last week. It is important to stress the point that they had that one-man advantage, though. Here's Bruni, being told to use it. Off he goes. Back comes Guido Petti. Guido Petti, who played most of his season in France, in the back row for Bordeaux-Bègles. Kubeli, that was meant for Bautista Delgui, but it was well read by the Wales defence.
Yeah, well read there, keeping their eyes about them. It's just the physicality at the moment. Argentina are getting gain line with almost every carry. And it just seems like Wales' big hitters, Ross Moriarty, they're marking him so well. He's not able to penetrate like he normally would. This is a lovely little back inside pass there. They're just trying, Kubeli there is just trying to tease the players nearest the ruck to sort of follow him. That he's got the ball, and as soon as they follow him, that's when he'd flick it back inside to that inside runner. But the Wales defence stayed true, so good set from them there.
This sort of performance was very easy to predict and anticipate from Argentina. They started their June tour with that test match against Romania, where they came rather close to fluffing their lines. They did run out winners in the end by 24 points to 17. Important to make the point that it was in part a second string 23, but having had a full 2 or 3 weeks to work together with some of those players who came off the French season, the likes of Santiago Choco Barres, who wears 13 today. He played in the top 14 final for Toulouse, so once he was fully integrated into the squad, as have others. Well, Mario Ledesma, Michael Checker and the others, including Juan Martin Fernandez Lobe, remember him, he could play a bit. They've had a chance to create more cohesion, so entirely predictable that this performance has been a step up on last week's. Jonathan Davis. Jonathan Davis, who has started the last 6 British and Irish Lions test matches. Won't, however, be doing it next week. Leicester's Julian Montoya. Straight over the top. That was Bautista Delgui. A rehearsed move. They need a scrum half now. There he is. Sanchez plays the role on to Crema. Last minute of the first half. That was Gomez Codella. Another carry from Facundo Issa. Bruni weighing up the options. Managed to get it away out of the back of the hand. Good ball retention again from Argentina. Issa. Back to Sanchez, the attempt at the drop. Well, he's got the length, but not quite the line.
Right decision there. They were going left, they were going right, they weren't creating any opportunities, and Sanchez could see the clock was pretty much going dead, so why not go for that drop goal?
Referee Luke Pearce just reminding Jared Evans that he can't knock it straight into touch and has to bounce first if it was going to be half time. Oh, it's another spilt ball by Wales. So referee Luke Pearce there blows his whistle for half-time. It's been a terrific first half for the Pumas, particularly Matthias Moroni, scoring on the occasion of his 50th Test appearance. Argentina will feel they have a Test series there for the taking. They lead Wales by 17 points to 8. That was Amos who dropped it again, wasn't it?
It sounds terrible, but like when Amos first came on, I was like, he's a good front player, he's right. And then he had 2 stormers, but now, today, that's why he's not.
Yeah.
He's like this. But age he is, and experience he is, you can't have that. 10 runners, get a ball into time, drop the ball on, fine. He's 19, 20, no worries. How old is he? And I would prefer to see someone like Ben Thomas, the youngster, part of Blues and played football. He's not like a fullback, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, Ben Thomas doesn't play like a player who's short of confidence. Well, it's the almost the same Argentina side which beat the All Blacks back in November. This Welsh 23, seriously depleted by the tour to South Africa with the British and Irish Lions. But they have 40 minutes, really, to the end of term to Wales. A season which has seen them lift the Guinness Six Nations title. What a transformation that was. But Wayne Pivac will want to end what has been an 11-month season. Really, I think, here with the victory. The draw last week, the emphatic win against Canada. What do they really need to sharpen up, Philippa?
It's all about the breakdown at the moment. Wales need to disrupt Argentina. Argentina are getting such quick rucks that's allowing them to have this slightly more creative game. They're getting loads of gain forward there, so it's really fronting up, but it's going to be tapping stuff.
So Jared Evans gets us back underway. Pablo Matera with the first carry for the Pumas. 9 points the difference. Nicolas Sanchez. No problems that time for Hallam Amos. The two sides, by the way, have come out unchanged. Thomas Williams on to Evans. Here's Jonathan Davis. Jonathan Davis starting to look pretty sharp. He's had quite a few injury issues. Certainly looked off colour when he had opportunities in the Autumn Nations Cup. Here's Evans, pumps it up high. Sanchez is underneath it. Took that so confidently above his head, almost basketball style. Tetas Chaparro. Neat little step there from Sanchez. Finds his opposite number. Tom Rogers. Evans. Here's Turnbull. He's had that blonde rinse for the 3 test matches, but it was turned over there illegally so, says Luke Pearce.
But still, the way that Argentina are fronting up in those tackles, again, you would expect Josh Turnbull to be getting well beyond the gain line, but they're just marking these big runners up so well.
That is Julian Montoya. Jared Evans just turned his back on that immediately in disgust. He was looking for another 15 or even 20 metres, I think. Evans getting his first start for Wales since what was Wayne Pivac's first match in charge on this ground against the Barbarians just after the last World Cup. Big hit there on the captain. That came from Chocho Barres, and it's been turned over. Here's Matera. Sanchez is looking for it. Sanchez has got it. Thomas Williams just lining up. Little kick over the head there of Jared Evans. They showed a lot of patience there. Could have been very easy to snatch at that.
And this is just an example of how the physicality is bringing them into the game. It was that initial collision against Jonathan Davies that gave Argentina the opportunity to turn the ball over and play.
Maroney, rather mistiming that, and missed it with his right peg. Carreras, just over the head there of Hallam Amos. Amos improves the angle, knocks it down the tram lines, gives Carreras another crack, who passes it on to Sanchez. And Carreras can now pursue that. Thomas Williams was underneath it. He knocked it on. De La Fuente couldn't grab it. That was half a chance there for Argentina.
That was a nice bit of play there. You could see Carreras just stood by the fly half Sanchez and sort of said, put it up for me, get it up. Lovely little competition in the air there, just gets a hand to it. That could have been a real good opportunity there.
Yeah, so it's just a little shaft of light there for Geronimo de la Fuente. De la Fuente, he'll be playing his rugby next season in the top 14, having been promoted this season with Perpignan. Perpignan, the French champions a little more than a decade ago. Now back in the top flight after winning the Pro de Deux. Bit of a talking to, particularly for the loose head for Argentina, Teta Chaparro. Evans onto Jonathan Davis, onto his left foot. A little abbreviated follow through, but I don't think he abbreviated it quite enough. It's gone straight into touch.
That's so frustrating. It's normally such a good option to have there. Jonathan Davis, just that one pass out will just bring the defensive winger up close, so it opens up that backfielder space for usually a very accurate kick from Jonathan Davis, just a little bit too much on it. And it went out on the full, so they've got to return now to the 22. Pressure back on Wales.
91st cap for Wales today for Jonathan Davis. Well, I think Wales have got it. Good work there from Turnbull. Guido Petty was initially meant to catch that, but fumbled it with a bit of help from one of his mates. Here goes Delgi. That's the halfway line. Cobelli just getting scragged by Rogers. That's Bruni. That's for De La Fuente to get after. Well taken by Thomas Williams. Always moving quickly, thinking ahead is Thomas Williams. Oh dear, spilt. And it was spilt very late. Looked like he had it. He looked up, and then the ball just fell to the ground.
Potentially making the most of the sun as well. You've got to remember here that at Principality Stadium, the roof is off and the sun is beaming. So putting up those high balls, forcing a player to look up. Potentially he just lost the ball in the sun there. But Thomas Williams, he's performing well. He was the catalyst really for their comeback last week. And he has these moments of real urgency that really kick the team on. But there was much better phase play by Wales then at the breakdown. They really caused some disruption, forcing Argentina into that box kick because they couldn't build anything.
Argentina making alterations. Santiago Medrano has come on the tight head side of the front row, replacing Francisco Gomez. Cadella at the age of 36 has done 45 minutes or so. There is Medrano. Also on is Thomas Lavanini, a player who's never quite fulfilled the promise he had. Came into Test rugby as a teenager. Lavanini, who infamously got himself sent off against England in the World Cup. Owen Lane there lurking out on the flank. Ross Moriarty protecting the ball well. Here's Williams. On there to Evans. Evans just pops it up to Tompkins. Oh, I thought for a moment it might work for Owen Lane, but I think it just flicked off the end of his fingers.
Just trying to force it now to the edges. The first two initial attacks of the game by Wales were so composed, so clinical. They got it into the wide channels with real ease, but they're really struggling. They're really having to force the passes to be able to get it to the wingers at the moment.
So 3 replacements, and they're perhaps the most significant of them. Matthew Screech, former Dragon, recently joined Cardiff, just over the back from here. Appears for Wales for the first time. It's taken a while, the transition from under-20 rugby for Wales to the full international team. Almost a decade, in fact. Matthew Screech, a Wales international at the age of 28. Partner there with Will Rowlands. So Ben Carter going off. Well, Dylan Lewis has only just been on the pitch and penalised. Free kick that to the Pumas. Here's Cabelli. Sanchez. Almost found a bit of space there. Hallam Amos had to make good ground, and he took it neatly, and he's got a chance here to set something up. Tompkins was screaming out for it. It's there with Jonathan Davis. Williams on there to Evans. Dylan Lewis. Penalty advantage. This is a little bit encouraging for Wales. Jonathan Davis, Amos. Out there to Rogers, who had no real space in which to operate. Nawal Tetan Shaparo, I think he's probably tiring a little bit. He came offside there for Argentina. Well, half an hour to go. The deficit only 9. And the kicking tee being called for. That's the right call, isn't it?
I feel it is, actually. I think we are starting to see the Argentinian team tire a little bit, and the placebo, the sort of psychological effect of taking that penalty, it's going to start to sort of mentally wear Argentina down, and physically they're starting to feel tired. That should help to open up the gaps in their defence. So, yeah, I think it's the right call right now.
There was a very good reason, I suppose, why the momentum shifted quite dramatically a week ago, with Argentina having to play without a full 15 for 50 minutes. But Mario Ledesma must be wary that Wales don't do a similar job this week. And Jared Evans from straight in front narrows that gap to 6 points. They came back from 14 down to clinch the draw. And Jared Evans, right, virtually with the last kick of the game, had an opportunity to win it last week. Ran him off. Back in Test rugby. After, well, he did return at the end of last year in the Rugby Championship, but certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, we haven't seen him since the World Cup in 2015. Van Imhoff likes this place. Scored 2 tries in that remarkable quarter-final here against Ireland in the 2015 Rugby World Cup. We saw some stunning Argentina tries, and the scores of 3 of those are here today. Imhoff and Matias Moroni. Carreras. Here goes Bruni, who's carried well today, the number 8, who plays his club rugby in the 2nd division in France, in Brittany for Vannes. But that was spilt. Big Mr. Crema looking a little bit weary.
Great collision, that's exactly what you need. Wales have just managed to get the points in. Now they need to follow up with the big hits as well. I dare say Kramer saw the defensive line, just took his eye off the ball for a split second. Just knocked the ball on. There's been quite a bit of movement in the Wales back line. You've actually seen Nick Tompkins has gone to the wing and Tom Rogers has gone off.
So Argentina leading the offloads count by 7-0.
And that is a sign of a confident team. That is a sign of a team that have had a lot of possession and they're feeling confident with it. So they are going for those 50-50s and those offloads.
Despite bringing on Thomas Lavanini, it's worth making the point that the two starting locks for Argentina are still out there. Guido Petti has moved into the back row, which is where he spends most of his time in the club season. And there goes Willis Holo, who was perhaps a little disappointed not to start today. A carry for Screech. They're inside here of the Argentina 22. Perhaps that momentum shift is real here for Wales. Hallam Amos being driven back. Rowlands. He scored a crucial try a week ago. Still a lot of time on the clock. More than 26 minutes remain, but that time Thomas Williams just getting a little bit over-eager. He'd been tackled. Not allowed to do that. Penalty against him.
Yeah, he's just trying to bite, trying to get those extra few meters. If they do it really quick, sometimes the referee won't notice, but unfortunately, he did pick that up. But there is a stoppage as they're actually looking at Ross Moriarty. He's taken two really big collisions of late.
Yeah, there he is. They're talking about possibly quite a nasty knee injury. Well, he's done quite a bit. He's been all over, hasn't he, Ross Moriarty? Hugely disappointing for him because he missed a lot of rugby towards the end of last year and into the Six Nations. Really plays without any sort of compromise at all.
Yeah, and you know what? That's his thing. Those strong runs, those powerful carries. He really does put his body on the line. But he's taken two hits today where he's really struggled to get back to his feet from them. Good to see him back up. He is a bit of a gladiator on the field.
Yes, he's the sort of player who needs to be told to come off.
Oh, absolutely. Dragged, I think. I just love the run-ups he gets. He's quite often in that backfield, fielding the kicks, and he loves that 30-40 metre run-up.
Argentina making a change as well. Facundo Hijena comes on, replaces Nahuel Tetaz Chaparro. Hijena, who started this season playing for Leicester in the East Midlands of England and finished it playing for London Irish. Oh, that was almost half a chance there for Juan Imhoff. There is Hijena. Argentina also bringing on Matias Alemano, and he's replacing Marcus Kremer, so this will be a straight like-for-like swap in the second row. Off goes Marcus Kremer. Kremer, who plays for Stade Francais in the French capital. Catch there for Moriarty. Oh, Turnbull drops it. Referee says it went forwards.
There was a bit of a shaky pass there from James Botham, just down to the feet of Josh Turnbull. Yeah, Ross Moriarty did a good jump there in the line out, but he doesn't look right, doesn't look comfortable. I dare say we might need to see a change there.
I think the strapping's very heavy as well. And you can see stripped off and ready to go is Tane Basham. We've had a couple of mismatches over the course of July. This certainly isn't one of them. Well, scrum was quite impressive there. Oh, look at that, Jonathan Davis. Like a pickpocket, but the referee was already playing an advantage.
Oh, what a shame. Such a great position for Jonathan Davis to get that ball. Centre field, literally no one in front of him. He would have had a lovely run in front of the crowd here. That's the risk of that no-look pass. It was a nice bit of movement by the back line there. But it really is risky play when you do that offload without looking.
Well, Argentina have been spilling a little bit of oil over the course of the last few minutes. Nicolas Sanchez. Looking to restore at least 3 points. What for a period was quite an advantage, and he makes it look so easy.
Argentina just starting to pile on the pressure now. That's a great kick to get. It just stretches that lead that little bit more. Wales have got to stay composed here. I know this is a young team, but there are some experienced heads in there. As much as they need urgency, they also need composure.
Wales have replaced an Osprey with an Osprey. Gareth Thomas's first start for Wales has come to an end. He's handed over the mantle to Rodri Jones, who earns his 21st cap. That's Thomas Gabelli. Gabelli, he'll be making the switch to France next season. He'll be joining Biarritz. Biarritz, the sort of place you'd quite happily play for nothing, I think. It has to be one of the hottest rugby locations. Biarritz promoted back to the top 14 in the last couple of weeks. Evans, Holo. Wales looking as if they can finish strongly here. Look at Bruni driving lane back though. That's Thomas Williams. Evans, Holo. Jonathan Davis coming in on a good angle. Quite a hit there on Rodri Jones. Jared Evans, Holo, little step. Jonathan Davis was looking for the offload, which didn't come. There goes Screech again. Approaching the end of the third quarter. Nick Tompkins with a neat step. The Argentinian defence just scrambling a little bit, but at the moment, holding firm. Hallam Amos. Well, they've retained possession of Wales, but they've lost a bit of ground here. Jared Evans, maybe a bit of space now. Lane inside of Davis, who couldn't balance it off his right foot, or right hand, I should say, and he went into the grasp of Guido Petty. Carreras with a kick infield. Nick Tompkins. So Amos goes for the kick and chase. Carreras takes it. Oh, that looked nasty. Carreras looks in some discomfort. And I fear this could be a pivotal moment, not just in the match, but also in the series. Let's listen in. Well, that was the voice of the television match official, Tom Foley.
Hallam Amos, initially, he's chasing after that ball, but there is actually a player in front of him where he just takes his eye off the ball and then makes contact. There. Basically, he's saying that if the number 9 wasn't there, Hallamemos would have got up earlier and it would have been a genuine contest.
Well, Wales are going to be without one man for half of what remains of the game.
You know what? I think that's fair. For the collision, there had to be some kind of infringement for that, but it was by no means sinister. However, he did need to get up into the air. But like you say, he was slightly impeded by the 9 in his ability to do that, so that's why it's downgraded from a red and the severity of the fall. But I think a yellow is fair, but that's going to make it very difficult for Wales now.
And I guess it was inevitable once the referee and the television match official had judged that the actions of Thomas Cabelli, the scrum half who got in the way, were legitimate.
Yes, absolutely, because that would have been a contributing factor as well. It would have been foul play on the Argentinian side if he had changed his line of run and prevented Hallamemos from actually getting up. But as it happened, he didn't change his line.
Fairly clear what Mario Ledesma thought about it. There's Bruni, who has impressed today, the number 8. Taken on there by Chochobares. Here's Montoya, the captain. Argentina will build patiently here and then look to go in for the kill. It is their opportunity to win the test match and take the series. There goes Lavanini. But it's been turned over. Here's Holo. Good tackle from Cabelli, that was important. So we move into the final quarter of the match. Argentina leading Wales by 20 points to 11. Carreras. Thomas Williams, he covers some ground over the course of an afternoon. That's the good old-fashioned spiral.
I think you're going to see a lot of that from Argentina now, kicking behind players into the 22. So not only have they got a pretty good lead here, so they're just going to be looking to running down the clock, putting the ball back in behind, but it's the fact they're now a player down and it's the fullback. So there's going to be a bit of disorganisation now in the backfield of play for Wales. The wingers are going to have to work really hard to try and cover that area, and I think Argentina are going to look to expose that.
Well, Wayne Pivac has clearly decided that Ross Moriarty is well enough to continue through to the end of the match because he has withdrawn Jim Botham on his Tame Basham. Stephen Jones on the right there, who I noticed ahead of kick-off, greeted Mario Ledesma like a long-lost mate. Those two having played together for a couple of years at Clermont-Auvergne, so alterations coming at scrum half. Here comes Kieran Hardy. Both half-backs being switched, so it's Kieran Hardy alongside Callum Sheedy. So Wales now have used all 23 players. That was Chochobares with the carry. The Ball lost forward in the tackle. Matera following through.
Another dominant collision from Wales that involved Ross Moriarty, but unfortunately again he just looked a little bit slow coming up off the floor, and you really hope Wayne Pivac has got confidence in him, because like you say, he's used his bench now. Ross Moriarty's it's gonna feel like a long sort of 15-20 minutes now.
Well, he's certainly his father's son, isn't he? Remember old Richard. The first mission, of course, for Wales is to get through this 10-minute sin bin period. But they also have to have an eye on the scoreboard. They've got to eat into that 9-point advantage. Carreras under the high ball and being hit just a little bit late there by Basham. And he stayed down as Carreras. The television match official might take a look at that. Matera with a catch. Still down as Carreras. There's Montoya. Here's Sanchez. Kubeli pops it up. It's Turnbull. Well, it's a penalty to Argentina. But I wonder, we might be taking a look at this.
Okay, so they're not going to be looking at any closer inspection of that contact. They've just given the initial penalty. It's definitely late. It's as clear as the ball. I think there is an argument. You could have said he could have pulled out a little bit earlier from that, but I don't see any sort of dangerous contact there. That's a bit of a body slam.
A body slam, that's more WWF than it is the modern game of rugby, isn't it?
Yep.
So the penalty is the reward, if that's the right word. They get to take the penalty from where the ball landed after Carreras kicked it. And for a kicker of Sanchez's quality, despite the very early miss in the game, this should be a 3-point gift. To use tennis parlance, the Pumas are edging towards match point now. It's a 12-point lead.
They're certainly starting to look like the more dominant team. And for me, Wales only really looked threatening in those early exchanges. Since then, they've just struggled to really get into the game. Little unforced errors, some shaky individual performances. And Argentina just seemed to be growing in confidence.
That was a decent carry from Matera. Matera, who will be joining the Crusaders on the South Island of New Zealand in the new year. Kubeli. Callum Sheedy's waiting for it. Oh, he spilt it. That's Chocobares. Lavanini. Sanchez, little poke over the top. Basham missed it. De La Fuente didn't, but the ball went forward.
And talking about confidence, little dinks over the top of the line like that, that's a sign of a team that are enjoying their rugby right now. You can see the urgency in the Welsh defensive line. They just flew up. And again, because there's no fullback now, it's a great idea to just chip over the top cause them to scramble, try and get that turnover.
There's an Argentina player down. I think it's Geronimo de la Fuente who may have stretched a muscle when he went for that ball. Well, the Pumas have made Wales make a lot of tackles into three figures.
And it really is energy-sapping stuff, especially in these conditions. And I think we're starting to see it, a couple of hands on knees. A few of the Welsh bodies are really starting to feel it. Combine that with just the general physicality that Argentina are bringing. It's really helping them to get their dominance over Wales.
41 tackles shared by the Wales starting back row. It's been a busy afternoon in what are very demanding conditions.
Really busy, and when you considered obviously majority of the carries as well, that's going to be made by the Welsh back row. They really have had quite a tiring day of it.
Yes, the back row forwards, they need almost the power of a weightlifter combined with the heart and lungs of a long-distance runner.
And especially the way that Wayne Pivac does want to try and play in attack, although I dare say we haven't seen too much of it here, is wider rucks, getting those loose forwards, those back rows out into the wider channels. So he really is demanding a lot of work rate from them.
Here's Kieran Hardy, started last week, coming off the bench this. The pass a little inaccurate. Nick Tompkins being driven forwards just inside Argentina territory. De La Fuente being told to release. Approaching the end of the sin-bin period. Oh, and it spilled forward. That was Dylan Lewis who fumbled it forward off his right hand.
Handling's just a bit shaky. It's almost like Wales have too many options in that line, and people don't seem to be clear on which is the right option to pass to. It doesn't seem like people are almost expecting the ball.
Off goes Thomas Gabelli. He's had a good afternoon, including scoring a try. Philippe Escura comes on. Escura earning his 11th cap today. Escura, one of the very few top-flight Argentina players who continues to play his club rugby back at home. The Jaguars virtually disbanded when we had those problems with Southern Hemisphere rugby and Super Rugby. That's why the makeup of this Argentina side in terms of club representation looks rather similar to the way it did maybe a decade or so ago, with the majority playing in France, a handful playing in England. They've got a couple playing in Australia these days. There's Sanchez onto De La Fuente. The kick through, and Carreras came away with a bit of a limp there, so Sanchez having to fill in as fullback, if you like. Here's Lane. Chance to run for the wing. Did well in the first half. Hardy just popping the ball up. That was for Screech. 11 minutes to go for Wales. Sheedy with a kick over the top. That was meant for Tompkins. Carreras again having to be acrobatic and utterly fearless. Sanchez half charged down by Basham. Both sides living dangerously. Wales know they have to. No need for that where the Pumas are concerned, though. Sheedy. Halaholo unable to gather it. Wales know they have to be precise if they are to stand any chance of getting back. Hallam-Amos is on, at least that's the good news for Wales. They will play the last 10 minutes with the full 15, but they do have, to use the old cliche, a mountain to climb.
It really is, and you can start to feel a little bit of urgency, but when you combine urgency with tired bodies, you get frantic play. And that's what we've just seen there. They're trying to force offloads. They're trying to just kick the ball forward. They're hacking at it. It's difficult when you know that the mountain you have to climb is so big, but equally frantic play for Wales is not going to be the one. Yes, be reactive. Yes, go for your chances, but they just need that little bit of composure.
Well, the Pumas have the luxury of being able to withdraw their captain and replace him with a man who played in both the Champions Cup final and the top 14 final this season. Facundo Bosch plays his club rugby for La Rochelle. And look at the power there. Well, they've done quite a job, have the Argentina replacements.
Yeah, the bench has certainly still kept the aggression levels high, the energy levels high. I'm not surprised to see that. It's a massive kick, but it's Argentina managing the time very well. Like we saw last week when they were down players, they chose the calls that would basically wind down the clock, and this is one of them.
Well, it may be not impossible for Wales to come back from 15 points down, but it's highly improbable. And Nicolas Sanchez from 55 metres and maybe a little bit more. This, I think it's fair to say, will clinch the series. Sanchez has the distance. Oh, but not quite the line. Sheedy had to react swiftly. What a kick that was. Did everything but went over. Guido Petty guilty of coming offside. Santiago Carreras, who's been struggling for a bit ever since that hit from Hallam Amos. He has been replaced. On has come Domingo Miotti.
That really was a massive kick. Like you say, it had all the legs, didn't it? It had another 10, 15 metres on it.
There's a fair amount of support for Argentina around the stadium today. It's a socially distanced, limited crowd. But plenty of Pumas fans to help them home. The catch there from Juanimov, despite the pressure from Lane. 7 minutes remaining. Is the Guinness Six Nations champion season going to end in defeat? They lost to France narrowly on the way to winning that Six Nations Championship title. You do have to remember they... Oh, and Hardy has spelt it forward.
That's such a shame because textbook, he's doing everything right. He's got his eyes on the ball. He's got a slight turn in his body to make sure, well, to try and make sure the ball will go back if he didn't catch it. Must just be a bit of nerves because he's fresh on, so you can't say it's fatigue. But you know, when you've got that kind of frantic play happening in the team, that's where you want your subs to calm things down and bring that composure. But when you've got young players like that, they're not going to have that sort of authority. Sometimes they can almost take on the feeling that's on the pitch.
Well, Argentina have rather become draw specialists in recent times. They came here having drawn 3 of their last 5 test matches. 2 against Australia, and then last week. It isn't going to happen this time, though. Escobar with a put-in. Control by Bruni, and the penalty to Argentina. And Pablo Matera points at the post, and Nicolas Sanchez comes forward, and it is an appropriate moment to tell you who is our player of the match. And there he is. I don't think it would be unfair to say that he's not necessarily one of the front of house participants for Argentina, at least not until now, but he's had a decent month, scored a crucial try in the win against Romania a couple of weeks ago. And here he is, some powerful carries, Rodrigo Bruni.
Really powerful carries and a great work rate as well. You find him in pretty much every other ruck. He's been their main carrier, top for tackle breaks. So I'm not surprised to see him. Well-deserved player of the match.
Sanchez. And that time, there is no mistake. The lead is 15 points. Argentina have impressed today. In the hands there of Sanchez. Back to Miotti. Miotti looks up, sees some space. Very decent kick, that one. Across comes Moriarty. Good tackle from Matthias Moroni. It was in that corner over there that he scored that try against Ireland 6 years ago in the World Cup quarter-final. Holla. Wales at least looking for something, one final act of defiance. The match is lost, and with it the series. There's Rowlands. Oh, the pass loose over the shoulder there of the Wales captain. Back goes Tompkins. And Argentina get the penalty.
That's a really disappointing set for Wales there. That was just error on error on error. Literally just being marched back into their 22. You've got to give credit to Argentina, though. You know, they've taken their defensive prowess from last round up to the physicality, if that was even possible, but they've managed to today. And then they've added lovely creativity in attack. I think they've played very clever. They've taken their penalty points when they've needed to. Wales, unfortunately, really look from the moment. They had an initial first 5-10 minutes of really good, and they've really just been chasing the game ever since.
Well, it's impossible to overestimate just how unsettling the last year and a half has been for Argentinian rugby. The loss of the options and the benefits of playing a franchise in Super Rugby was seen as the vital step towards really producing an Argentinian side capable of winning the World Cup. They've gone back to the way they are, and here they are, and Pablo Matera goes through. The former captain celebrates victory here and the series.
What a line of run as well. Just feel like that is pretty much a classic Argentinian try for this game. Building pressure, they've got great position, and they only need a handful of carries to cause real disruption to the Welsh defensive line. Just flusters them, takes their eye off the ball. Just watch as he comes in on this line now. It's almost from behind the back of the ruck, so it's really hard as a defensive player to see that player coming in, but Wales need to do better there. Will Rowlands.
Well, Nicolas Sanchez. He just said one more to Luke Pearce. I think he realises he perhaps did have the choice to run down the clock and make that the final play, but it's party time for Argentina. Pablo Matera picks up a try. Scored the first one for Argentina last week, and almost certainly the last one this. Here's Miotti. They are going to enjoy themselves. Here's the man of the match, doing what he's done pretty much all afternoon, getting past a couple of Welsh bodies. Well, they still want to play, don't they, the Pumas?
They're enjoying it. They're feeling confident. They're enjoying their rugby.
Well, Sanchez decides we'll enjoy a bit more fun out of the heat of a very hot day in Cardiff. Argentina impress in the Welsh capital.